The March 8th, 2022 board work session is now in order. Tammy, roll call, please.
Mrs. Belford, Mrs. Campbell,
Present.
Mrs. Jenkins, Ms. McDougall,
Present.
Mr. Susan.
Present.
Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This afternoon's work session is to hold a public hearing on Board Policy 2605. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the Board Policy 2605, Research and Evaluation? Ms. Delaney?
I didn't realize we were starting so fast.
Did you hear her hit the gavel? I mean, that
Well,
was
I
with
didn't know the
authority.
policy was starting so quickly.
I was like, I better wake up. This is happening right now.
I'm so sorry.
Take your time.
Trying to figure out where I saved my speech. Okay. I'm here to discuss item H30, Board Policy 2605, Research and Evaluation as it relates to the survey. Such as the Youth Truth Survey given to our children grades 3 and up, as well as the TNTP survey given to our teachers. Parents need to be aware that the Youth Truth Survey was administered to our children starting at the end of the year last year through the beginning of this year. Some parents were notified of the survey, while some could not find any evidence of being notified, but other parents that were notified, there was absolutely no mention of the nature of these questions the survey contained, nor that this survey was completely optional. In this survey, there were questions asking our children to assess how their peers value people of different sexual orientations, gender identity, and race. In this survey, it asks our children how often they see people of diverse backgrounds in the school's artwork, publications, and textbooks, etc. In this survey, it asks our students how often they learn about people of different sexual orientation, gender identity, and race. In this survey, it asks our students, if they are taught about people being treated unfairly because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, and race. And at the end of the survey, it asks our children their gender identity. This survey was administered to 3rd through 12th grade. Moreover, when we look into the organization based out of California that we are paying what we thought was tens of thousands, but now we know it's over $200,000, to data mine from our children, parents may also want to know that they were founded and are funded by none other than the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. If you don't believe me, Google Youth Truth Survey, and you can go there to their page to verify. You want to claim that there is no CRT being taught in our schools, yet we are seeing a pattern within our schools, consistently having to bombard our children with talk about sexual orientation, gender identity, and race. It's being shoved down their throats at every turn. Our children are walking into the libraries with sexually explicit all LGBTQ plus specific books on display, not just on the shelves. Thank you, Ms. Delaney.
On
We
display.
appreciate you joining us today for comment. Is there anyone else that wishes to address Policy 2605, Research and Evaluation? Ms. Hall?
Just going to pick up where Katie left off. These books are on display for our middle and high school students. We have pictures of Genderqueer on display at Edgewood Junior Senior High before it was removed from the libraries last fall. This has gone so far beyond what our public schools were meant for, and it is time for parents to stand up and push back on this agenda. Within Board Policy 2605, it states on line B5, the right of a parent to opt out of any district-level data collection relating to the minor child that is required by law. One of the things we would like to see this policy further expanded upon to include language requiring the distribution of the survey questions in their entirety to parents in order to ensure that the questions are not inappropriate for their child. Along with the copy of the questions, we would like to see language requiring a notice to parents about the right to they can opt out. Some of our members did discuss this survey with Dr. Sullivan, and we want to thank her for her time in addressing our concerns. We want the record to reflect that we were told that parents would be getting the questions in advance, along with the opt-out, and that these controversial questions would be removed from future surveys. So we do appreciate that feedback, and we hope that it does happen. In addition, parents should also be informed about who will be in possession of their data after the surveys are conducted, and if third-party companies are being used to conduct the surveys, they should not promote CRT in any capacity or be funded by politically motivated organizations. I would question why surveys cannot be done in-house, just like the parent surveys are done. It begs the question of why we are paying so much money for surveys like these in the first place. Finally, we would like to briefly touch on the highly inappropriate teacher survey that went out assessing our educators' biases. I believe that we've said it before, that all of this hyper-focus on how unconsciously biased our teachers are and how there's no such thing as a non-racist policy, tying it all to the education gap within our schools is implying that our system and teachers are, as a whole, are racist. So please tell me how you as a teacher would answer this following question. Teachers and leaders at my school understand that they have bias and are actively working to mitigate its impact. Think about this for a second. If I'm a teacher answering this question, if I select strongly agree, then I'm admitting that me and my peers are inherently biased. But if I select strongly disagree, then I and my peers are not only inherently biased, but we're actively not working on our bias to mitigate its impact. So there's no right answer to this question. And by the way, the organizations that the school district is paying to conduct this assessment is also funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We can do better by our teachers and our students as a district. We need to stop with all of this added nonsense in our schools and get back to the basics. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present who wishes to address Board Policy 2605, Research and Evaluations? Is there anyone else present who wishes to address Board Policy 2605, Research and Evaluation? All right. Does any board member have anything to discuss?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Board. I'm Sarah Mursky, wife, mother, student, taxpayer, registered voter, and I live in District 2 for School Board. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I want to thank Dr. Sullivan for her hospitality and transparency on the Youth Truth Survey. She had the conference room set up and walked me through a lot of the data. I was able to work with her and one of her other assistants on my concerns about the inappropriate questions. I appreciate the time that she took to spend with me, as well as the others that were in that room. I would appreciate, as well, we discussed being able to allowing parents to opt their child out of the survey itself, and I would include teachers in that. I look forward to the presentation in April and continuing to work with Dr. Sullivan and her team. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Mursky. Is there anyone else present that wishes to address Policy 2605, Research and Evaluation? Anyone else present who wishes to address Policy 2605, Research and Evaluation? All right, board members, anything to discuss pertaining to this policy? Ms. Campbell?
Ms. Klein, does this policy cover the surveys that were mentioned in the public comment, or is this just about academic evaluation, academic progress?
You're correct. It's academic evaluation.
Thank you.
Mr. Susan?
So part of the policy that we're looking at calls for individuals to receive information so that they can evaluate what our
Is your mic on?
it is. So we have a list of all of those companies, right? We're not giving information to some group that we don't know about, right? There's nobody that's able to obtain it. So in the event in the future that if somebody said, we would like to see who gets our kids' data, that's fair, right? We can do that, right? Right, Dr. Mullins? I mean, it's like College Board, that kind of stuff, right?
I'd ask you to repeat the question. I'm not sure I'm following what your request is.
So
or your
some of the
question is.
data that we have that were reviewed by military organizations, College Board, those kind of things, right, is what we've done for 50 years, right? Like, as long as 17 years that I've been on the board. And if there's an event that parents were like, hey, where does my kid's data go? We'd be able to tell them, and there would be an understanding of where our information for our kids goes, right?
I think it's just directory data that goes to those organizations, Mr. Susan. I don't think we're releasing academic data. The only time we release academic data is, well, the students actually
Sure.
submit their data. We're not.
Totally understand, but in the event that there's any data going to any organization, we know exactly who that is, and we can provide that data. There's not what I'm trying to get at, and I'm not trying to dice any of the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, but we can offer up whatever company or whoever we give that data to or anything like that. I mean, and we've been doing this for a long time. When I was inside schools,
Yeah, I would, Mr. Gibbs, I know, reviews all of our contracts, particularly, I know you reviewed the contract with Youth Truth Survey and others. We have privacy clauses and agreements and that type of thing in our contracts, if I'm correct.
We do. Anything that we're collecting student data, it has a FERPA clause in the contracts themselves, so they can't release that information. There are like deaggregation exemptions and stuff where if they're using it for like to show national statistics and everything, then they can use the actual data points themselves, but not any identifying information usually. Whether or not what information is going where, you'd have to look on a case-by-case basis to see what program is using what data is.
and any company that has that has to contract through us, has to get a FERPA clause and everything else. So we would be able to show that to anybody that wanted to see.
If they're getting data and access to student information, there's a contract that's going to govern that access and data.
Perfect, thank you, that's it.
Any other board member have any questions, comments? All right. That will then conclude our public hearing. As there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
I would tell you.